Hello everyone, welcome back to Push Square. Aiden here, and this week is a very special week because it marks the 2-year anniversary of the PlayStation 5. 2 years since this thing has come out, which is what is time. So I wanted to take today as an opportunity to discuss some of the things that I really love about the console, some of the things that could be better, some of the ways that they've actually improved. But before we get started, if you're into this kind of content and anything else within the world of PlayStation, leave a like on the video and subscribe to the channel. So, 2 whole years since this thing came out, and I was lucky enough actually to get one on launch, purely coincidental because I just happened to be on a website looking at the pictures of it and stuff when the pre-orders were supposed to go live the next morning. Lucky for me, they went live that night accidentally. So I was there and I managed to get one, and I'm so glad for it because I think I would have massively struggled. I know from the comments I've been looking at that some of you are still struggling to get these 2 years on. I do think they're slightly more available where I am, at least in the UK. I'm seeing them crop up a little more. You're definitely easier to buy them in bundles, but bundles cost a lot of money. But yeah, they're not the same level of gold dust that they were back then, so at least we've got that aspect that has been improved upon slightly. But let's start off though with the things that I love, the really good things about the PlayStation 5. I mean, straight out of the gate, you've got the big hitter tech specs, the 4K, the 120Hz support, VRR, all of these kind of things that they're not system sellers for me, but I really do love it, especially as we get more games that are starting to support 120Hz. I mean, Destiny 2 and the Crucible at 120. I would be lying if it wasn't genuinely one of the biggest selling points of this console for me. But the noiseless fans, the whisper quiet fans. Now, I have heard a couple of my friends mentioning that it's not quite as quiet. I seem to have gotten lucky because mine is genuinely whisper quiet. The loudest this thing gets is if you put a disc in, you can hear the disc whirring. But the actual fans themselves, I never hear them. Like, I could go right up to the console, do not hear it. That is worth any amount of money to me because the scarring that you get over those memeable jet fans on the PlayStation 4. I remember sitting down to play The Last of Us Part 2 for the first time, and my girlfriend came up and said, "Can I sit down and watch a little bit with you?" A little unlike her, she's not a big gamer at all, so I was like, yeah, of course. So I took my headphones off, but then 5 minutes later, no. Headphones were back on, she was watching silent gameplay because I could not hear a thing. Honestly, about 3 months after I got rid of my PlayStation 4 and I had the PS5, I could still hear those fans. Like if you left it on when you went to the toilet or something, and you're just walking past the room, you hear that whirring. Oh. Stuff of nightmares. But the noiseless fans, they are peak stuff right there. Another really underrated feature, I think, is the built-in PlayStation Store. If you weren't on the PlayStation 4, essentially you would click on the app and it would kind of have to load up this app to take you into a new thing, like it was an entirely separate thing that you were booting up. Now, of course, you just scroll along, scroll down, and you're there. So, as someone that, if I'm playing in multiplayer games and I'm waiting between matches, I am a fiend for just jumping into the store, looking at the pre-orders, looking at the deals, because, you know, you get itchy if you haven't bought yourself a game in 2 weeks. You start thinking, oh, I wonder what deals are on. Yeah, I love just searching through all of this stuff and having it like right there and super easy to access, because sometimes you would click on it in PS4 and you'd be waiting a solid 20 seconds for this thing to boot up, and by that time you might be back in your game already. Your presence and skill are required elsewhere by that point. But I genuinely think it just makes things really easy and seamless, and is emblematic in a way of like what makes the PS5 next gen. It's the small little things that just smooth out the whole gaming experience, and that's certainly one for me that smooths out that experience. But we can't really talk about the PlayStation 5 without talking about the DualSense controller. This is probably the most next gen thing about this entire generation. Obviously, looking over to Xbox, they kept things pretty much the same, and I think when you compare the two, that is really where the PS5 is like leaps and bounds ahead when we talk about the tech itself, because this thing, let me tell you, I mean, I'm sure a lot of you have used them already and you know how good they are, but the vibrations in this thing are so detailed and specific, and it's odd how much you can feel and sense that makes sense in a way when it's just your hands. You know, playing a game of Call of Duty and running through explosions and shooting and all of this, and you can feel all of it through your controller. It's just, and the triggers themselves, you know, the rattle. I'm one of those guys that leaves it on. I know some more high-end professional shooter types will turn this off because it slightly delays reaction time. I love it. See the feel of the trigger just going when you're firing away like a big machine gun. That's some good stuff. And then like even better when you look at games like Returnal that start to implement the haptics where it's half presses and all this. It is really good. I'd love for it to have a little bit more battery. I would say that. It drains pretty fast. Quite a lot of the time I'm playing with this thing plugged in just because it goes out of battery all the time. That would be nice. But, you know, for the features you're getting here, I suppose there has to be a trade-off somewhere. Just as a really quick thing, you know, we're going through all of the stuff that I like here. The fact that it's a 4K Blu-ray player. The 4K Blu-rays on their own are like £100 plus. So to have this just baked into the console is, I love it, because I'm a big, not a huge Blu-ray collector. I used to be before the streaming site started to completely invalidate all of that sort of collections. But now that 4K is starting to build up, I'm starting to get a little bit of a collection now. But having the feature, like the ability to play 4K Blu-rays just through the PlayStation 5 is just like a great incentive in a way. It's like two birds, one stone. It's the same reason kind of that I got a PS3 back when I eventually did, because I was looking for a Blu-ray player as well at the time. And then I was like, well, here's both of these things as well. But anyway, that's a lovely feature. Before we get on to the bad of the PlayStation 5, I've got to talk about the design, because to be honest, I really like it. I was a big fan. It's very out there. It's very new and futuristic. I also, to talk about Xbox again, I love the design of the Xbox as well. It's the console that's sitting next to my TV, and I think that blends in a lot better. It has a more seamless look. It almost looks like a part of the furniture in a way. You know, it's meant to be there. The PlayStation definitely stands out, especially when you have the white plates. I switched mine out for black ones now, but even still, I think it just looks nice. I think it stands out. You go, there's a PlayStation right there, where I feel like other designs you could be like, what, it's just another console? Yeah, I love it. Let me know what you think down below. So let's go on to some of the bad things. And I struggle really to find like a lot of them. I don't think there are like a huge amount of things that I dislike about the PlayStation 5. Storage is definitely one of them. I don't think coming in at around 800 gigabytes, I'm sure it is, before you talk about the software stuff, bringing it further down, is anywhere near enough in our modern day and age. Of course, now we've included the ability to add SSD, and I've got an additional terabyte in there, but even still I'm like filling that space up, because it just been announced Warzone 2.0 is going to be like 115 gig. Modern Warfare 2 itself is like 80 something, so you're talking about 200 gigabyte for two games that are within the same experience. So storage is a major issue, and I don't think many average gamers are really going to want to not even just spend the additional money on SSD, because they can be quite expensive, but it's the fact you have to take the PlayStation apart and it's a relatively easy process, but I know how easy it is to be put off by doing stuff like that, just because you need a screwdriver and you're pulling things back that you're maybe not used to doing. But it is nice that we have the ability at least to expand upon it, rather than with the PS4 just completely replace it or have a stupid HD drive hanging out of this thing at all times. Storage needs fixed. Another very contentious topic within the PlayStation 5 generation is the cross-gen issue, I suppose. Games that you maybe feel should have been pushed forward with new gen or current gen tech on the PlayStation 5, but have been held back in some ways with the PlayStation 4. You know, there's a lot of people, probably a majority of PlayStation gamers, are still on the PlayStation 4, so from a financial standpoint, from a business standpoint, it makes sense. You're not wanting to cut off so many people that are going to want to play your games, to buy your games. But additionally, I do think a game in particular I have in mind is Battlefield 2042. There was a lot of talk about this being the next gen Battlefield experience, and it just didn't feel like that at all when we got what we got. It was a real surprise to me that they said they were doing last gen as well. It has been an odd transitioning period, but I think looking to the next year or so, we're going to see a lot less games coming to PlayStation 4 as well, and more games coming to PS5. Because when you look at the ones that are specifically made for PS5, like Returnal or Ratchet and Clank, these games just play on another level. They're just so finely tuned, and it's not just the graphics or the loading times, but it's sometimes the way that the levels work that you just know in your heart this could never happen on PlayStation 4. And those are the kinds of experiences that I'm really looking forward to in the next few years. But anyway guys, I think that will kind of do it for today. This has been an odd, completely unscripted rambling video, so yeah, sorry for that. Happy 2-year anniversary, or happy second birthday I suppose, to the PlayStation 5. I have had an absolute blast of a time with it over the last couple of years, and I can't wait to see the kinds of fun content that we'll be getting from it in the years to come. We have got the Wolverine, Spider-Man 2, I'm sure there's other things I'm forgetting about, PSVR 2, it's going to be... I can't tell you how excited I am about that, like genuinely. So yeah, I have been very positive overall in like the direction we've went, or maybe not the direction, let's say the quality of the games and the quality of the experience of gaming has been largely elevated, in my opinion, with the help of the PlayStation 5. But anyway guys, thank you for watching the video. Thank you for putting up with me for today's video as well. If you liked it, leave a like, that really helps us get out there, you know, beat the YouTube algorithm. But so does subscribing to the channel, so if you haven't already, please consider doing so. We have a bunch of PlayStation content coming out multiple times a week, so stick around for all of that kind of stuff right here on Push Square. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.